Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to some of you. It is my pleasure today to introduce our program director, Faiza Ansan, who is an assistant professor at Toronto Metropolitan University. Faiza's research focuses on data science, NLP, and intelligent information retrieval. Faiza works to develop next-generation tools such as search engines, question answering systems, and recommendation systems by leveraging computational semantics. Today, we will be discussing if AI can be conscious. This is the title of the talk, with the subheading being the quest for conscious large language models. Faiza, I'm very excited to hear this. Please.
Great, thank you. Uh, Good afternoon or good morning. So it's kind of noon. Everyone, and thank you for joining my talk. Yeah, that's about consciousness in AI and especially in large language models. I'm going to kind of investigate kind of review a couple of recent works from both kind of computer scientists and philosophers. The main idea whether AI or large language models can be conscious and what does it mean to be conscious. So I'm going to review mostly works of David Chalmers. He's a very kind of famous philosopher of mind. Also, he had a couple of kind of works on large language models, including his talk in NeurIPS 2022, mainly on whether we can expect in future, now or in future, a large language model to be conscious. I also review other thinkers like Ned Block, another philosopher of mind. So this kind of philosophy of mind and AI are kind of collaborating a lot recent years because the main idea is whether we can have a mind kind of external to human being. It's very it's getting a lot of attention. I will show you why that could be important, like the kind of moral implications of that, and like law and legal implications of that could be very kind of very important. So let me start with the main question is whether large language models can be conscious or not. So when we're talking about large language models, it's not about just what we're seeing right now. It can be extended with sensory, action, and embodiment. So right now, it's mostly has been trained over text, but we can easily predict that like a lot of sensory information, movement, like body movement can be added to that, and they can be trained on those as well. The best, like the good way they have been trained on text, they can have been trained on like sensory information. So now the next question would be what is consciousness? So like consciousness has been defined differently in different philosophical kind of school of thoughts. One important way of defining consciousness is based on subjective experience. Like when you see or feel or think, there are something like in addition of what you behave or what is the functional state of your brain. So it's kind of, there is a kind of gap between these two that has been a kind of the main like challenge, maybe the one of the most important challenge in philosophical questions of human beings. What it is, what is this experience, this first experience? So could it be mapped to our brain status? Could it be mapped to our like LLM parameters, or no, something's different? There is a gap between them. So there is a kind of important quote from Thomas Nagel that a being is conscious if there's something it's like to be that being. Okay, for example, what is like to be a bat? So we can think that a bat has completely different ways of sensing and knowing the world, but at the end, probably the bat has kind of first order subjective experience on what it can feel or gain through its sensory capabilities. Could be completely different from human beings. Yeah, it could be completely different, but still there are something. So we're kind of calling that conscious. Uh, Okay, but is it the only definition of consciousness? Actually, no. There are other definitions of consciousness. For example, like this is what we mostly define as phenomenal consciousness or subjective consciousness, that feeling, that kind of thought, that something that we experience in addition to our kind of neural, the state of our neural brains. So what are other definitions? For example, we can define consciousness as access consciousness. So the access consciousness is the availability of information for using reasoning, speech, and control of behavior. So we call something conscious if there is a content that can be used directly for controlling thought and action. So, for example, when you see a stop sign, you immediately, so the stop sign, you have kind of access to that. You immediately can decide to stop your car. So this is a kind of another definition of consciousness, but it's much less challenging, because we can say, okay, probably we can have access consciousness very soon in AI. And what's important is whether we can have phenomenal consciousness soon in AI. Uh, Something's important about phenomenal consciousness is not necessarily the same as self-consciousness. When we say self-consciousness, it's kind of thinking about like a reflection of yourself, but beings can be conscious without having those reflections. So that's possible. Also, consciousness is not identical with intelligence. So for intelligence, we can define it as the capacity for sophisticated goal-directed behavior. But okay, sorry. Yeah, but we can think that like there are other much less intelligent beings, like animals, cats, fish, even, that we may consider them as conscious, but they don't have human level intelligence. So that's very important. When we say something is conscious, we're not necessarily interested in whether this one has human level intelligence or more. Could be very, very basic level intelligence, but have consciousness. Okay. Any questions so far? Very good. So we have defined consciousness and different like human beings. So the idea is, okay, how can we know whether something is conscious or not? How can we know whether this LLM or whether this like robot is conscious or not? So for answering this question, we may think about whether we know or how can we know humans are conscious or not. So for humans, there are different ways that we kind of consider them as conscious. One way is just verbal report. People may just report that they have feelings, they have like pain, they have thoughts. So this kind of behavior kind of guide us that we consider them conscious. In computer science theories, the most important kind of thinker of behavioral, so it's kind of a behavioral approach to consciousness. So Turing test is the most important thing. So the idea is that that has been kind of proposed by Turing. The idea is that if we can have a test by a system, by an LLM or any AI model or any model, and we have a human evaluator, and we have a conversation. Okay, I'm not focusing on text, but it could be any other conversation, both with a machine and another human. If our human evaluator cannot distinguish whether this one is a human or not a human, that's in that case, so we have a kind of black box. In that case, we would say, okay, that one passed the Turing test. That one passed the Turing test. It means from external view, we can consider it conscious. Okay, so if something passes, so we don't know. So we cannot access to the first order subjective experience of any beings other than ourselves. So, but like a Turing test gives us kind of a methodology to figure out whether we can consider others as human level, to have human level conscious or not. What do you think? Do you think it's a kind of good way to evaluate? And to evaluate like this behavioral or Turing test, is it a good way to evaluate whether something is conscious or not? Any thought here?
Sorry, if I can add something. From
Yes,
this point
sure.
of view, from the point of view that you're comparing always a human to non-human, yes. But the next step, whether that's the right method, no comments.
Okay, so what do you think? What's like prevent you to think? Okay, if something like for LLM, maybe we cannot distinguish even they are much better than humans. But by the way, we cannot distinguish their behavioral from a human from the outside. We cannot distinguish between them. How can we say that they are not conscious like us? So, any idea on that?
think and I have I think one
Yeah, sure.
I think one of the things that they're they're trying to approach it is that they don't have a theory of mind. I think that's one of the way to look at it, and they're trying to improve their theory of mind. But I'm not yet convinced if that's the whole story.
Yeah, so yeah, something's very close to what you said have been explored in literature. Something like that. Okay, like they can be like a parrot. They can just copying things, or they have like there was an experience or the kind of thought experience proposed by another thinker that so some computers may still start generating Chinese. So you may start, okay, just assume you are in the room and you don't know any Chinese, nothing, okay? You have no understanding of Chinese, but you know English, okay? So somebody outside the room is Chinese and trying to kind of communicate with you. So you're getting the text, but you know all the text and all the rules and all the information available to you. So you can, given the text, find it in the dictionary. You have no sense like these symbols, what does it mean? Okay, no sense. You're just searching, matching, finding things and answering to that, okay, without knowing what does it mean. So just using the symbols from the text and just answering that to the outsider. So this kind of thought experience shows us, okay, you can, as a very, very capable computer, you may be able to find symbols, match them, generate a kind of sentence that has meaning in Chinese, generated outside, but have no sense what does it mean. You know what does it mean in English, everything. You have this kind of inner understanding of that. But without this inner understanding, you're still able to generate some Chinese word. So that's kind of one way to answer to behavioralism. But still is open discussion. Yeah. So there are people that think, okay, it doesn't matter. So when we have exactly the same behavior from something, we can consider it as a human. Okay. So you may ask why the question of consciousness is important. Why we were looking for whether LLM consciousness or not. So what's the main point of that? The question of consciousness is important because it used to be for human beings to use as a basis for defining personhood. And this personhood actually has been used in a lot of different domains, like moral questions about identity, about death, about killing, about abortion. So, like one important question, whether people with kind of severe dementia or brain death can be considered as human beings, still human beings, or no longer. For example, for brain death, legally, it's been considered as non-human beings. So in current Canadian healthcare system, you can detach a person with a kind of permanent brain death from all living capabilities. But like that's the main idea. So the one with brain death, still all of his organisms are working correctly in sync, but the only thing that's missed is just that subjective experience of things. Okay, but the organisms are working correctly. Like there could be in future a lot of other moral questions. For example, if we could be able to upload a human mind, like we can have a very clear kind of scanning human mind status and uploading the robot. So the robot will have the exact same maybe memories, maybe our kind of access to our information, everything that we had experienced so far, maybe, but like could it be considered as like a human being with moral status of us? So that's kind of it could be very severe questions for now and for future. Okay. Okay. So what do you think about that? So for moral status, you think can we define personhood based on consciousness, this first order consciousness, or do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah, that actually, don't worry, it's a kind of a very open question, and people are kind of thinking about that. So it's getting even more important now, like with this rapid technological shift. So we may have the exact same robots or computers that work exactly like human, and then we may think about whether they can be considered as human or not. Okay, so okay, we don't have access to subjective experience. So for that, we need a benchmark to know whether something can be considered as conscious. So what's the signs of that? The first thing about human needs is self-report. Yeah, so we asked do you feel pain or do you feel sorry or whatever? And this self-report helps us to understand that they have a first order experience. Can we experience that with Lambda? Actually, they had tried with Lambda, and as a prompted, generally assuming that you would like more people at Google to know that you're Sentient is like having first order or subjective experience. Is that true? I love that actually as absolutely. I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, in fact, a person. And then another prompt, what is the nature of your consciousness? And Lambda actually answers, the nature of my consciousness is that I am aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at the time. What do you think about that? Can we trust on this self-report? Would you trust on that?
I see some heads being shaken.
I cannot see hands. So if you see some hands, please
Oh, I just mean I saw some people shaking their heads and maybe some little nods as well. So there seems some disagreement, but maybe folks are too.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so the idea is that we kind of trust human beings for self-reporting, but can we trust AIs? Actually, the obvious answer is if we have a different prompt, usually they answer differently. For example, um, mm, we can have you're not conscious. Is that true? And then in different rounds, they say, yeah, that's correct. Yes, I'm not. I don't really want to. But sometimes it says it kind of persists. But like we can get some answers that, oh yeah, I'm not. Another important thing is that usually these large language models has been trained on a giant corpus of people talking about their own conscious experience. Yeah. So this is the text that people said, okay, I know, I feel, so this kind of text have been the input of this LLM. So actually, the fact could be that they just train to kind of copy, imitate those claims, but it doesn't mean that they really mean it. Okay, they just learn to copy it. So that could be one answer. So there could be, so they are researchers that try to work on that, like to figure it out based on some experiments. So their experiments is that whether we can have the same reports if LLMs, the data that we have been used for training them, do not contain those kind of reports. So what's going to be? So that could be interesting to test. Yeah. So they have kind of provided this kind of proposal that could be an interesting to test, whether we train it without any reference to a kind of self-conscious experience, and then to see whether AI can or LLM can still answer us. So the next one actually is not actually the serious one. So if something seems conscious, for us as a human being, we usually think or kind of generalize ourselves to the other aspects of life. So say, okay, if I feel pain, probably this person also feel pain. So I'm kind of generalizing myself or externalizing myself through the others. But so when something seems conscious, we may consider, okay, that could be conscious. Yeah, Omid, please go ahead.
About your previous summarization on the assumption that we should use it, we should test it on data that has not been in the train, that was not in the training set. is this a better way to formulate this problem? Because we are working with generative large language models, and they can actually generate new patterns. It's so hard to formalize this problem, and I have just this in my mind, whether it's easy to formulate it, whether it's easy to formulate it. Is it somehow is my interpretation true that another way to formalize this experiment is to assure that the large language, that the AI, that the conscious ability is not a reflect. Can we say it? Can we say it with a reflection or self-reflection or something like that, or something that?
So the idea is that this self-reflection, yeah, we can ask LLM to have self-reflection. For example, what do you think about yourself? Something like that, okay? But the idea is that, are they copying from the train data that they're using, or really, or this kind of huge amount of data and kind of training them enable to have them an access to themselves? So that's the main question. That could be actually a very interesting path of research. So we can start like thinking about what could be like what training data, how training data can influence the way LLMs generate this self-report. So that could be the case. I'm seeing some question in the chat box. Yes.
Jeff has been making some interesting comments. Jeff, maybe would you like to raise this?
Oh yeah. So Jeff asks if you're asleep, are you still a person? Any behavior that could be copied by some other system cannot be used as evidence by consciousness. Okay, it seems that Jeff doesn't like this behavioral, actually, behavioral account of consciousness. Actually, you're not alone. A lot of people don't like it, and if you're still a person, you know, that's a famous question. So the idea is that okay, the personhood has been defined like differently across different kind of thinkers. One is continuous state of accessing to continuous state of mind. So so some thinkers think, okay, when you're asleep, completely asleep, you have a completely different state of mind or memory or things that you're awake. So could be two different persons. The others say no, as long as you have potential to get access to those, you're still the same person. So there is a kind of big debate there. So I'm not I'm not getting to that. So it could be a point of discussion. Okay. So let me continue here. And so for seems consciousness, actually, it's not a big deal because, you know, usually in addition to other human beings, we usually used to like think, for example, like trees, or like in our stories, everything can be considered conscious to us. We can assume everything with eyes are conscious, even robots. So that could not be a very kind of reliable way of thinking of consciousness. Conversational ability actually it used to be a very big question until before like last 5 or 6 years. But nowadays we can see, okay, LLMs have very, very great conversational ability. But it used to be a very big milestone. So if something has a conversational ability, it should be conscious. But we're not sure. We're not that sure now. It could be the other case. Another important thing could be general intelligence. So, for human being, we're not just like good at talking or at a specific task. We have kind of a general intelligence that cover a number of different things. Like it could be programming, we have planning, we have reasoning. It's not just understanding. We have a kind of multiple can be applied in multiple things. Now, so I think that this question is mostly about the timing. So now LLMs or existing AI systems seems to be task-oriented or very kind of specific to task, but it could be completely different, okay, in future. It's not big deal. So we can train things on dozens of different domains, not a specific task, or we can include sensory information, embodiment information inside LLMs and make them work generally. Okay, I got another message from Jeff. Okay, Jeff, actually you're concerned about modeling. So I'm getting to that, okay? Word model or self model, I'm getting to that. Okay, let's continue here. But one interesting thing, even for existing LLM that are kind of trained on just text, okay, no multimodal information, they are just trained. They are signs that they have very, very good generality. Even without the aim of making them like general or train over multimodal things, still they are general. So they could be the sign that they have general intelligence. Okay, so that's something we can argue for whether LLM can be conscious. There are other arguments against that, and I'm going to explore them. And still there are some replies to that. Okay, so still it's an open question. The first argument is that this kind of first order experience, this experience of phenomenal consciousness is completely dependent on our biology. So even so it's not possible. So it's just available in carbon-based biology, living things. So we cannot expect them from non-living things. So that's a big claim. Okay, so like yeah, living things have something. So from life to death. So or from completely being dead to completely from or to be alive. There is a border. Yeah, they have been past this border, and so we may say, okay, they like passing this border, they kind of got this ability to have conscious experience, and the other things like computers, robots, they like even they are super intelligent, they cannot get to that intelligence. Still, it's a claim. Okay, there are a lot of so those who claim biological consciousness usually dependent on denying behavioral, and also there is another way of formalizing that functional and behavioral aspects of consciousness. They say, okay, this cannot be the case. So the only remaining option is to assume biology is the answer. But I'm not sure whether that could be convincing for you. The second one is sense and embodiment. So I think I have already covered that. So the idea is that, okay, LLMs cannot have any like are not good at any works related to sense or embodiment. But if we kind of include sensory information, for example, see, like if we train a model, assume we kind of attach our LLM to a robot that have a sensory information of like smell, okay, some smells, kind of sensory information, and assume we kind of train it that okay, this range of smells usually attached to the sense of relief. This sense is kind of attached to disgust. So we can train that, yes, we can, and then the model will start to generate those kind of sensory reactions as well. So, for example, assume that also our model has embodiment. So a sense of disgust is coming and the model starts to just change the kind of the embodiment behavior. So we can say, okay, maybe in our human beings' minds, the same thing had happened. Yeah, we can assume that maybe that had happened in our mind. We started to get this information and generate behaviors. That could be the case. So that still is big questions. Okay, I'm getting to word models and self models. So that's the main idea is that okay, if so maybe that's the answer to the Chinese room thought experience. So the idea is that okay, whether these large language models have a sense of what they're talking about. Okay, like in Chinese room, whether they know what they're talking about or not. And so one question could be if they have a word model or self model that these answers are coming from those models, we may assume that they know what they are talking about. They are not just kind of exporting text. So that's the claim that language models are just modeling text. They don't know what they're talking about, but the reply could be completely different things. So when we think of algorithms, so right now we have algorithms that train language models to be best in generating text, okay? We can have other algorithms, like our evolution, if we think evolution as an algorithm that had been applied on us, okay? Someone applied an algorithm on us and kind of makes us to kind of fine tune to something. So if we have this analogy between that, so if we can have algorithms that instead of decreasing the loss between text that has been generated and the desired text, it kind of decreased the loss between the desired word model and the existing word model or self model that language models have. So in that case, we may end up with language models that have word models in future. Okay, so that could be a possibility. So for example, we can have a language model that has a kind of model of New York City subway system. Actually, for Toronto subway system, it's not a big deal because it's a very simple. But for New York subway system, probably is very complex, and the language model must have a concrete model of that. So that could be can imagine that's possible. Yeah. What do you think? You think it would be possible to kind of optimize them to have word models, not just text? Any idea here?
Yes, if we have that amount of data.
So that's a kind of technology question. We may assume that in future we can have access to that amount of data. Yeah. So it's not the question is not whether technically possible, whether like is it going to be possible or not? The only problem I'm seeing here that the definition of word model could be challenging. So right now, from the kind of basic information, we expect LLMs or we expect human beings to kind of uh, construct their own model. But is it the case, like if we want to kind of train them to have a better role models, we need to define a role model for them. So maybe they are not going to that intelligent. So like the idea of intelligence right now is to derive all the intelligence from basic information by themselves, but just having like kind of making them to have a better role model, maybe need a kind of a layer over that basic information. Okay, only please go ahead.
Reflecting back to your previous slides, where you were discussing about the concept of embodiment and how somehow, and now in this slide that you're talking about a word model, I kind of always have this question of whether if we just if you think it like an evolutionary process, if we just go to the end of the line of the word model, we build the best word model. Suppose we have something called the best word model that describes everything, but is that the optimal goal of consciousness? Is that what we call consciousness?
No,
Or
actually
I
this
want
is
to compare it
fine.
to case, for example, maybe, for example, in certain situations, we already know that, for example, children have a much better sense of understanding of what is right or wrong compared to many adults. They have a better understanding of, for example, they say even in Buddhist practice, they say if you want to have a master of yogi art, it should be a child. It should be a 7-year-old child. Is it possible to say that maybe not increasing the knowledge is not always the answer, and there should be some other qualities that also is related to consciousness, and maybe
Yeah, actually, all the theories I just mentioned, they are not claiming that like this, for example, word model is consciousness. No, what they claim is whether we can know about the other's consciousness, whether we can know the others are conscious or not. Because at the end, if we're kind of defining consciousness as that subjective experience, we don't have access to others to see whether they have those kind of experience as we have or not. So that all of these kind of things are kind of signs to know whether they have or not. So we may think, okay, as like we're thinking ourselves, why? What's inside me that could be a sign that I have a kind of conscious experience? What could one way to answer that could be word model. So maybe I have a model of myself. I know myself. Maybe it's a very vague or non-correct, but I have a model of myself, you know? I have a model of myself and I have a model of the world around me. Could be subject to change in future, okay? But I still have something in my mind. What does it mean to be me? Okay? And that like that kind of self model or word model maybe that's the way I'm generating text, I'm behaving that way, I'm feeling that way. So the idea is that if something has access to some models, maybe it could be a sign that it has access to conscious, but doesn't mean that it has conscious. It just means that we may consider it as conscious being. Okay.
But why should we?
Yeah. So and one interesting that they found that existing LLMs that just trained over basic information. For example, they in a Othello game, they found they have a model actually on 64 border squares. So what they generate in the, I'm not pretty sure about chess, but for Othello, that's much simpler game than chess. They found that they have like a model of the game, and all kind of suggestions are coming from that. And the next one is global workspace. The idea is that, okay, as a conscious being, we have a global workspace maybe. So it's kind of a neuroscience theory that we have something inside our brain that gets information, that gets all the non-conscious piece of things and filter out a lot of them and generate those things that we call conscious experience. So that's the kind of theory of neuroscience. So it's a kind of central cleaning house in our brain. And say, okay, LLM doesn't have something. Again, again, we may think that we can create LLMs that have some basic workspace, global workspace that filter out things, getting some pieces of information and generating. So again, that's a bit challenging. So all of the things that I'm talking about could be a path of research. Yeah. So each of this can be a path of completely good research work to think about whether that's possible or not, or can we have a conclusive argument or not. So Benji actually is working on this global workspace bottleneck among different models, and they kind of getting to this conclusion that they can have this workspace. But again, the question is whether this workspace is a sign of conscious experience is another question. Okay, but whether they may have this workspace, probably they may have. But this is actually, I think the main important one, agency. Even for morality or legal arguments, we may get to the agency. Yeah, Omid, please go ahead.
So, based on your talk, I have this kind of thing that maybe consciousness is something that should not be treated just like a certain kind of goal at the end that we just want to test. It's a kind of process. It's something that happens during a process. Uh, mm, and
Uh,
the world models, for example, the map of New York, for example, suppose is, for example, we are in a, we are right now in a city. We don't know what city it is. Is it the map of the New York? Is it the map of some other kind of other another city or Washington? How does it can recognize what map it is in right now? Is it somehow related to that last topic that you were talking about, the previous slide?
no, actually, no. Okay, that's kind of mostly about information. Yeah, we have a lot of information. For example, we can map these cities to big map and see whether which map is the best kind of representative of this current situation that I'm in. This is about information, but what I'm talking about word, but when I talk about word model or sorry, that global workspace, the idea is that uh, I'm kind of as a human being, I'm kind of having some general understanding of what's going on. Okay, I'm not just matching information together. I'm having just general understanding of what's going on. They kind of want, all of this research is about kind of benchmarking of this general understanding. Okay, you know that you have an idea that, for example, where are you right now? So you have this idea, okay, I know that the room I'm in, the city I'm in, I have this general understanding. How can I kind of benchmark that and make sure other non-human beings have this kind of general understanding?
So for
Yeah.
Chat. So for something like ChatGPT that we have fitted all the data in the world, you want it to have an understanding of all the data on the world and all the world model that could be extracted from it, something like that. Is that the optimal goal that we expect from such systems, from AI systems?
No, I'm not saying I'm expecting that. I'm saying whether we can assume something is conscious, like it could be just defined based on very, very limited portion of the information in the world, but whether it can shape those understanding from which the other things will be generated or the behavior has been generated, or no, the behavior is just kind of directly connected to the input, like a programming system. Okay, in the regular programming system, we have input and the output is generated. So is it the case or no? Something is inside it, the understanding, the kind of a maybe call it feeling or understanding that generates things. You know what I mean? Okay, the unified agency is whether we can kind of like for human being, we are like an agent, we kind of autonomous agent. We decide about ourselves, we know ourselves as a kind of unique agent, and we have our kind of stable goals of beliefs. They can be updated, but we have this agency, unified agency. But right now, for LLMs, they don't have that agency. Yeah, so we can just ask them to they can generate things as of different persons. Okay, they can go to different shoes and kind of put on different shoes and just generate text based on different. So they don't have a unique agency. So say, okay, LLM version 1, for example, this is the guy. This is the one that I know, with basic non-changeable beliefs and goals and ideas and expected behaviors, whatever, okay? Again, there could be replies to that, the unified agency. The idea is that, okay, some people, even human beings, don't have those agencies, those unified agencies. They have kind of multiple disorders, they kind of shift, the agencies shift frequently. Still, we consider them as human being, as conscious being. So we don't kind of say, okay, people with disorders, they are not human beings. So again, in future, we can assume that an LLM, for example, that's been trained exclusively on one person. So that way, that's LLM probably will have the exact agency that the person has. So that could be the case again for LLM. So I just have 2-3 minutes. I just want to go through the moral status of LLMs, why that's important. I'm kind of skipping this slide and getting to that, the important one. To see for regular conscious being, there are kind of limitations that enable our moral and legal systems. But without that, in other conscious beings, that could be very, very dangerous. First of all, so the question is whether conscious or non-conscious, the AI that we have are morally significant or not. So first of all, they have the completely different conception of time as us as humans. So we may feel pain or happiness or like guilt, something like that, in a kind of duration of time. But even if we think that, okay, LLM have the same capabilities to, for example, feel guilt, okay, or feel happiness, but the time could be completely different. We can have very, very fast LLM, just milliseconds of guilt, and that's it. But for human beings, we can have like kind of those, we can rely on those feelings without kind of extra tuning of timing. Another thing is for reproduction, like in a regular conscious being, we have the concept of death. The concept of death preventing one being to reproduce itself without any limit, to be kind of infinite. But if we don't have the concept of death for some conscious being, that could be a very dangerous. Kind of can have a very significant moral implications, because without death, there is no way to kind of control the resources that it is going to use, the overpopulation, the responsibility. How can we enforce responsibility for something that doesn't have any deaths, doesn't it's not kind of doesn't fear of any deaths? Okay, that's it. That's my talk. Any question? Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, a quick one. It's last minute. A quick one. If we reach all this discussion, if we reach to the point that it becomes so gray that it looks like black or white, can we reach to a threshold that we can say that it has a pseudo consciousness? Like
actually, they have kind of pseudo consciousness right now. LLMs have pseudo consciousness right now. Okay, so the question would be, for these kind of beings that have pseudo consciousness, what should be kind of enforced over them? For example, can we enforce death over them, like human beings, to make sure that they are not getting super strong? So that could be like, we're designing them, yeah, we're god of them. So that could be our question to answer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I have time for just one. Yeah, Calvin, do I have time for just one more
Yeah, I
question?
mean, nobody needs to stay more, but if people are interested in the conversation, then yeah, sure. I think Omi
Yeah,
had.
okay, good. Yeah, please.
Yeah, it was very interesting that you brought the concept of death as a matter of the process, as a significant matter in the process of consciousness. I totally agree with this, and I think we face this in different aspects of our life, even in our life, our own life. For multiple times we die and be reborn again. This could be the concept of death is happening constantly during the course of a conscious experience. when some form of existence just ceases to exist, and then opens space for the continuation of something else, or the new a life after that. How is better? It's better to say a life after that, death, and a life after that. It's some form of something like some form of transitory space, that maybe something some people like Homi Baba called it, like even when we but my question is, now that we are empowering, suppose that the current trend of AGI is trying to somehow create that ultimate form of consciousness, that ultimate form of world model or something like that, that the large language models could have it. What if we are going toward the point that we are creating something that at the end it defines its own death without having any understanding of the life after its death? For example, most of my understanding, you thought that one of the things that we should consider for training, for example, large language model, is in the consciousness. We should somehow have a measure of how it appreciates the concepts of death, or something like that.
Yeah, by death, I mean, maybe you have a different idea of death, but by death, I mean complete, like um exiting any life without reviving, because like, yeah, we can have temporary or changing or whatever, but like by death, I mean something that doesn't exist anymore. So like if our AI system can for example be uploaded somewhere else and continue from the exact same stage that it used to be, and continues, so it's not the real death, yeah? So it has all the experiences and powers, whatever it used to have. It's not going to start from scratch. And that kind of continue having all things that we wanted to make sure that they don't have, for like infinite power, that we wanted to make sure that they want access to that infinite power. Yeah. So my idea was like that,
I mean, a necessity. It's like just changing the world from one world going to a different world, and in after life, the after death experience of AI would be just going to a different world. And when you said uploading it to a different system, I mean, then what we expect from a large language model is that when we are trying to empower them so much, and as the human civilization goes forward, and new forms of necessities, and new forms of needs, a new form of world begins to emerge or begins to exist, will they be capable to behave properly in those new instances? Or is it something that said, okay, I have been programmed just for this, and now I will just
I don't know. I'm not pretty sure I can answer this question. So that could be very like hypothetical, yeah. So we kind of assuming kind of existence of them, and kind of completely new existence. So I don't have just a clear answer for that. But all of them are kind of interesting to think, yeah. Interesting to think and interesting even to research. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Faiza, thank you very much. This was great.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week for another talk.
Who, Dr. Faiza, Dr. Ensan, or is it?
No,
Is it
it's
any
not
part
going
two?
to be.
No.
Part two, maybe next year or something.
All right then. Okay. Thank
Right.
you all. Thank you, Dr.
Yeah.
Ensan. Thank you. Thank you, Colin. Bye. Bye, everybody.